Warning, these videos contain mature and psychological themes. The stories are often inspired by real events, folklore, or historical cases, but are fictionalized and dramatized for entertainment purposes. No graphic content is shown. Viewer discretion is advised.
Have you ever heard of the Russian sleep experiment? Yeah, I bet you have. They say it's fake, just a story for the internet, but I know the truth, because I was there. That's right, I was there. Not in a lab coat, mind you. Not one of the subjects behind the glass. I guess you could call me the coffee boy. 14 years old. Didn't know much about nothing back then. I was as thin as the broomstick they gave me to sweep the floors with. Cleaning and fetching the scientists' coffee, that's basically all I did. The place was way out in the frozen guts of Siberia. I got the job from my uncle. My family moved around a lot back then. Military contracts, border towns, hush-hush locations. I don't think I ever heard the real name of that place. They just called it the site. The halls were concrete, cold, smelt like metal and disinfectant. Steel doors, no numbers, no labels, just chalk markings that seemed to change every day. At first, I didn't see much, just handed out coffees, washed dishes, swept the floors, but I could feel something was wrong. Like the whole place was holding its breath. Bad energy. Still, I settled in, comfy bed at least, my own little room, tall, thin wardrobes, 2 identical uniforms. Probably the first time I ever cleaned my own clothes, coming to think of it. Anyway, a few days went by doing my chores. By day 3, I got curious. Curious about the viewing room. What were the scientists viewing, I wondered. Most of them told me I was too young to go in there, and looking back now, they weren't wrong. But I was a persistent young chap, and eventually one of them caved. Probably just to shut me up. He told me I could have a quick peep, but not to touch anything. He unlocked the steel bolts, and at first it just looked like a regular office, bit anticlimactic. But then my eyes adjusted to the giant circular window at the far end of the room. Behind it, people. They were prisoners. The scientists said they were bad people, some of the worst. I didn't really understand what I was looking at, to be honest. Not fully. I'd heard rumors by then, of course. But this was day 3 of their experiment. Some of the men were sitting on the floor with their faces buried in their hands. Others paced back and forth, just muttering to themselves. But then, one of them stepped up close to the glass, stared at me, straight in my eyes. He was smiling, but not a happy smile. His mouth smiled, yes, but his eyes looked troubled. When we locked eyes, something twisted in my gut. A predator staring at prey. My instinct screamed at me to run, but I couldn't look away. A hand on my shoulder jolted me. The scientist.
Don't worry, Tim. As long as they're locked in this room, they can't get to you. Let's just hope they don't get out, hey kid?
But then he slipped up. The scientist told me more than he was meant to. He said the prisoners had been promised freedom if they stayed awake for 30 days. The room was sealed, filled with some kind of gas. It hissed continuously, a low whisper that never stopped. Above it all, one of the men was humming a tune, a lullaby, soft, repetitive. The scientist said he'd been humming it since the morning, and it was nearly 6 p.m. by this time. He suddenly realized he'd let me stay for too long, ushered me out of there. He told me to get out, get back to mopping the West Wing. So I did. I got back to work, and I kept mopping, but I also kept humming that tune to myself. I couldn't get it out of my head. I still can't. By day 5, the prisoners went quiet. And I know this because I saw them again. One of the scientists left the viewing room door opened just a crack. He went out to smoke a cigarette, you see. And of course I crept in. They were sitting in complete silence. Not talking, no movement, just blank, empty stares like something inside them had slipped away. But one of the prisoners finally stood up and walked towards the microphone next to the pane of glass. A scientist scrambled to put on his headphones, and whatever he heard, it drained the life right out of him. I asked, what did the prisoner say? But the scientist didn't even notice I was there. Just stared through the glass like something inside him had cracked. That's when I knew this place was wrong. So very wrong. This experiment still had 25 days to go. I had trouble sleeping, not because of the gas, obviously, but because of the dread. But still, in that horrible place, there was a silver lining. A girl named Sally. My light in the darkness. She was older, stronger, far braver than me. I always tried to not look like a scaredy cat in front of her. She had the same job as me, but she also handled paperwork. We got on well from day 1. We developed a little routine, as it were. Every night, around 6 p.m., when the lights dimmed and the scientists clocked off, we met in the kitchen for coffee. She used to say, "Did you know the coffee is a drug? We're basically druggies," she said. And she certainly wasn't wrong. That black tar that they called coffee could keep anyone awake for 30 days, if you asked me. I don't think the gas was even necessary for those poor souls. After our fix, she always wanted to explore. We weren't allowed in the restricted areas, but we found hidden spots of our own. We'd sneak out the south side, climb a ladder behind some crates, and sit on the roof. Just the two of us. Nothing but snow and silence for miles. I didn't care much for the view. I was too captivated by her beauty. One night, she held my hands and said,
"When all this is over, we need to keep in touch, Tim. You're the best thing about this place. Promise me, Tim. Pinky promise."
Then she lifted a little finger. I linked mine with hers. I promised. At that point, she spun around, laughing under the moonlight, dancing. I thought I'd never seen anything so alive. When we got back inside, she kissed me on the cheek. Just a little thing, but it meant everything. I couldn't sleep that night, too giddy. But the giddiness, it didn't last, because around 6 a.m. alarms exploded through the halls. A siren loud enough to shake the walls. Red lights flashing. I bolted into the corridor. A scientist I'd grown close to sprinted towards me. "Kid, I know you're young," he said. "I know you're afraid, but it's time to be brave now." He said the prisoners had escaped. "Stay close to me. We've got to get out of here," he said. We ran, lights pulsing around us. One of them started screaming, he said. Then they all did, for hours, until everything went silent. The scientist carried on. "When we opened the chamber," he said, "they weren't the same anymore." By this time he looked haunted. He said there were signs of chaos inside that place. So they decided to shut off the gas. When he stepped in, he checked if any of them were still alive. One of them grabbed him by the leg, sudden, desperate, terrifying strength. He begged for the gas to be turned back on. Then the others started screaming for it too. Don't let us sleep. That's what they all said. That's what they all started to say, over and over. The scientist went quiet after this. We just ran. Eventually we reached the exit. He fumbled with the keys. He couldn't open the door. Then from the far end of the corridor came laughter. Horrible laughter. Not human, not right. A figure appeared, walking towards us. I couldn't tell what it was, only that it was wrong. The scientist shoved the keys into my hand. Hurry up, Tim! I was trying all the keys. Felt like I had tried them all twice. Heart hammering out of my throat. It was getting closer. It was getting closer now. Then, the scientist screamed. I won't describe what I saw when I turned round. All I will say is I was now alone with that thing. The last key worked. God was watching over me that day, I can tell you that. I flung the door open, dove outside, and slammed it shut behind me. The sheer power on that thing as it hit the metal from the inside over and over. It was laughing. It almost took the door off the hinges. But the voice cut through the chaos. Sally. She ran to me, hugged me tight. She said there was a helicopter on its way, and sure enough, one came roaring over the hills. We got on board with a handful of other staff members that made it out alive. And right then, 2 men in black suits told us to keep quiet. None of this happened today. In fact, this place didn't even exist. Everyone you met here never existed. Sally. She squeezed my hand. A tear rolled down her cheek. They separated us, strapped us to 2 soldiers, gave us helmets, goggles, and then I overheard them talking about landing points, parachute gear. I knew we were about to jump from this helicopter. I was terrified, and Sally, I know she was terrified, but she, just like what she usually did, she put a brave face on, smiled at me. She even gave me a little heart gesture, and I returned it. I made sure I was brave in front of Sally. And before we were ushered towards that opened door, Sally put something into my pocket. It was a piece of folded up paper. And right then I was shoved out into the nighttime sky. That was the last time I ever saw Sally. When we hit the ground, I was bundled into a van. Only then did I look at what she'd given me. It was a classified document. This document. She did handle paperwork after all. It reads,